This is Zestology. It's the podcast all about energy and vitality. And I'm Tony Wrighton, walking through Savoy Gardens in central London. I've just been at the Savoy Hotel interviewing today's Zestology guest, who is Prem Rawat. What an extraordinary day this has been. And it's only 10:30 in the morning. So Prem, he's a bit of a big deal. He's been speaking globally about peace and global issues and kind of inspiring people since the age of 4, as you'll hear. From 4 years old, he started speaking to crowds of hundreds of thousands of people in India. And then he spoke at the first ever Glastonbury Festival, or Glastonbury Fayre as it was known, back in 1971. They don't just have music at Glastonbury, they have cultural issues as well. And Prem was one of the people speaking at Glastonbury, at the first ever Glastonbury, at the age of 13, dressed all in white, flown over from India. Just an incredible story. Now he speaks all around the world, from terrorist organisations to prisons to crowds of, I think he spoke in front of over 100,000 fairly recently in India. He's got a lot of followers in America. He's speaking in front of a big crowd this weekend in Manchester as well. And he's a guest on Zestology podcast. His big thing is global peace, but also how peace on a global scale can tie into your own inner peace as well, and how to find it and how to find a bit more purpose. So I suppose today's podcast is about a purpose and a peace that you could find within and also globally as well. So I turned up at the Savoy Hotel, and it's, as I say, it's only 10:30 in the morning now, and we started the interview about 9:30, and I'm wearing what I normally wear, which is jeans and a t-shirt, and turn up, and there is the biggest camera crew you've ever seen set up in the Savoy Hotel. Lighting, sound, dedicated photographers, producers, assistant directors, all sorts. And Prem turns up, all looking very smart as well. There's some little potted plants on the table behind us. The whole thing is videoed. We've got perfect sound quality and everything else. And then he's talking to me, looking like a right scruff bag. But anyway, I suppose it shows what a kind of big deal he is, because these camera crew follow him all over the world, and they send out his content to hundreds of thousands of people who all really enjoy it as well. So Prem Rawat is today's guest on Zestology. He's going to start this podcast by one of the first questions I asked him was about Glastonbury Festival, and quite enjoyed hearing his story of how he didn't really want to speak there. And then there's loads of other good nuggets in there as well. One of his big things is the daily reminders that we need to keep ourselves on track. And I feel like listening to this podcast will give you some daily reminders today to keep you on track. Hope you enjoy it. Here he is, Prem Rawat, today's guest on Zestology.
That was an amazing thing, because you don't know the story behind that. I didn't want to go. I didn't know what it was. And some people had told me, it is just a bunch of people who are into rock and music and drugs and this and that. And I didn't want to go because I felt, they already have their agenda all set. But people just kept saying, please go, please go, please go. So I started going for a drive. I just asked the person, I said, take me for a drive. I'm thinking, and I'm going, well, what am I going to say to them? They're there to listen to music. I can't sing, and I'm not going to play a guitar. I can't play a guitar. So what do I do? And then I realized, well, what you've always done, put your message out. Maybe somebody's life will change. Maybe you will never know them, but their life will change. Isn't that why you do it? It's like, yeah. It's not for recognition. It's not to have a ace in the card, a stack. It's just, if I can change somebody's life, great, wonderful. So I said, okay, turn around, let's go. So I arrived there, and everybody was there. Okay, the next song, and all of a sudden there was no next song. I brought out a chair, I sat down on it, and I started addressing these people. And amazingly enough, pin drop silence. People were actually listening. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll keep this brief. I know you want your music, but here it is. That one, what are you looking for? is inside of you, then there is peace possible. Peace is possible. And I spoke for a few minutes. I don't even remember how long I spoke for. I was off the stage. Things could begin. And for me, and I know for a lot of people, everything changed. Everything changed. For me, it changes like, listen, you don't have to have only those people in the audience that have absolutely said, okay, I want to listen about peace. You can have anybody. And it's a message that really, truly can touch people in a very beautiful way. Keep it simple, keep it real.
So that was it. Did you have a sense, because obviously we're recording this the day after Glastonbury's just finished this year.
Right.
And it's pretty much perhaps one of the top 2 or 3 festivals in the world. And it's not just music now, it's culture as well. Yesterday They had David Attenborough on stage talking about climate change, and he had a huge reception. They've had politicians and stuff. So you really kind of started that tradition off of if it not just being music, but kind of talking about global issues and stuff as well.
Yeah.
And did you have a sense that there was a bit of a magical vibe about the place when you were there?
No. I'll tell you why. Because I was only 13 years old. My life was in India, and there was nothing like that. And all of a sudden, I remember arriving in England, and I'm sure my lower jaw was down to my knees. It's like, your world has changed. I'm not with my parents. I'm alone. I've arrived in England. And one of the reasons why I've arrived in England is to figure out if people would even be interested in this message. Because in India, of course, you have all these people who are very poor. Well, their only dream is to become rich. And here you are coming to this country where people are rich, relatively speaking. Are they going to even be interested in peace? And lo and behold, the answer was yes, of course.
Yeah, and they still are. And as a 13, so you were 13?
Yes.
Was it your decision to come to, it's just this incredible journey. I mean, how did that come about, you travelling all over the world to deliver your message at such a young age?
Few of the people had heard about me. They ended up traveling on a van from England to India. I mean, talk about the good old hippie days, but, they traveled all the way to India.
Okay, because I suppose you can do that. If you can get across the channel, then you can drive all the way down, can't you?
Yes. And they went through, Afghanistan, all of that, Pakistan. And they made it. They made it to India, and they heard whatever I had to say in my broken English at that point in time. And they sent me, when they got back, they actually sent me some invitations. Come. And so I received invitations not only from England, but from America. And exactly a month later, I was in America.
And how long did it take you to kind of acclimate? You said your jaw dropped as a 13-year-old when you went to Glastonbury Fayre, and then obviously you went to America first. I mean, how long did it take you to acclimatise to this incredible new world, which was so different from your upbringing?
Well, I tried to acclimatize to it, but then I realized I'm here for a different reason. I'm not here to go and look at these monuments, or I'm not here to go and really get into the culture of this and this and this. I'm really here to talk about peace. Let me get on with it. And so I did.
Yeah. So, I feel like peace is a message that we can all get behind.
Yes.
My instinct is it's quite hard to argue with a message. Yeah, we all want more peace. Be quite nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So why don't we have more?
Well, because we've got our map, and it takes a long time to come up with that map, because everybody gives you an input. This is what you want on this map, and this is where you want to go visit. And of course, once you start traversing, you realize, well, I'm not getting to where I'm going. Do you realize how real that is for people? They go and they do this and they do this and they graduate and then they find a job and everything else. And all of a sudden they're realizing, is this it? And everything. Like dieting, for instance. I guess a lot of people can relate to the dieting. So you start with your dieting and, things are going really good, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, one, it's not working for you, or two, you're losing interest in it, and you're not following it exactly the way you should be, and somebody else is having an ice cream cone, and you want one too. And things just fall apart. And so people go on one diet to another diet to another diet to another diet. Well, it's very easy to understand it in relationship to diets. But if that's happening to diets, guess what else is happening in our life that's very much like that? That we've set out, made our resolution for the first of New Year, and here we go, and it falls apart, and it falls apart, and it falls apart. The quest for peace also falls apart. And a lot of people start then saying, and it's kind of like the sour grapes, the story of the fox, couldn't reach the grapes. For a lot of people, it's like, well, peace is not going to happen. And this is the first reaction I get. When I say, I was going through customs once, and the guy asked me, he says, what do you do? I said, I talk about peace. He goes, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. There's so much problems in this world. There's so much greed in this world that the peace isn't going to happen. And so I really started thinking about that. And it's like, well, how did greed come about? Is it grow on trees? Does it, naturally found in rivers or icebergs or what? And it's human created. Greed is a very much a thing that is exercised by human beings. So if human beings can do it, that means they can reverse it too. And maybe there is an incentive that needs to be given. And that's where this message comes in. Look, in the midst of all of your war that you're fighting at any given time, there's something else that's going on. There's a clock ticking. You can do nothing about it. You can't rewind it. You can't pause it. And there's a quest for peace from your heart. But you need to know yourself to find that.
Okay, so you mentioned it's kind of like two things there. You mentioned the kind of the personal perspective and also the global perspective. And I think this podcast is about energy and vitality. So that can be kind of a very localized day-to-day waking up in the morning with more energy. But it's also about motivation and purpose. And how can you live your life with energy and vitality if you haven't got that purpose? And I suppose I'm really interested to know, and I'm sure people are interested, when you do big events like you're doing this weekend, for example, how do you encourage people to find their purpose more? Or maybe they know their purpose, but it's not actually happening for them. What format is there to the day that you help people to kind of find that inner purpose and kind of live their best lives?
It's very simple, really. We just need to be reminded. Our power to forget is exceptional. And we forget. We get so caught up in this world that we forget, hey, by the way, you're alive, And being alive becomes a second grade thing. It's like, yeah, so what? What have you told me, by the way, that I didn't already know? Yeah. And go tell that same statement to a person who's lying on the hospital bed, taking their last breath. And they will have a totally different appreciation. I've done it. I've seen it. They'll have a totally different appreciation than that person, whose agenda is to go to, this fancy football game or fancy dinner game or fancy something or fancy dress party. And it's like, wait a minute, we do need to be reminded, especially in this world, which is so confusing and so much attraction out there that is distracting us from these fundamental things that we need to be reminded, and that's so important. That's so important that peace is possible. We need to be told every single day. It's like if you want to wake up on 7:30 in the morning, you set an alarm. Why? You set it yesterday. You said it the day before. Shouldn't it be automatic for you now? You get up at 7:30? No. You need to be woken up, and you better make sure the alarm clock is on and set properly. Otherwise, you're not even going to sleep properly at night because you're going to keep waking up and saying, is it 7:30? Is it 7:30? Is it 7:30? But just to have that understanding, somebody reminding you, look, this is also important, sets it in balance for people. At least for a few minutes, they can go, I got it. I got it.
And I wonder if I'm interested in knowing your perspective on distraction in this particular moment in time. Obviously, your beginnings and your upbringing was a very different culture and a different time as well. And I feel like distraction it's just worse than ever at the moment, isn't it? And the technology has a lot to blame for that. And because of that, it's actually harder to get those reminders because you don't have that kind of peace and quiet around you. What's your perspective on distraction, technology, and how we kind of almost take our minds away from those natural reminders that might bring us back to the straight and narrow?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I was asked this question about 4 months ago, 5 months ago. With all this social media and all these crazy things in this world, people are more distracted now than ever, and da-da-da. So I started thinking about it. At first, I agreed with it. Yeah, and, we need to be centered in ourselves. Then I started thinking, wait a minute. Buddha talks about don't be distracted. Your mind wanders. Kabir, incredible poet, he goes, we are constantly wandering with our mind in the three worlds. Sometimes we think about the gods, sometimes we think about people who are on the same level as us, and sometimes we are wondering about all the demons and everything else. Why are they talking about that we are distracted? They didn't have cell phones then. They didn't have all this technology then. Then I realized it is the human nature to get distracted. And what is distraction? Distraction is not distraction. It is being attracted to something else. So because it's attraction to something else, we get attracted very easily. We are monkeys somewhere in there. And so something shiny starts to shine and we start looking at that instead of the road. And, I see that all the time. People are driving and their one hand is not eating a hamburger, but doing their text message.
Terrifying.
It's terrifying. They do it. And, if you were to stop that person, pull them out and say, what you were doing is really dangerous, they will agree with you, but they'll do it again. So to me, it really becomes important to understand that we are going to be distracted, that it is not just the sense of technology that's doing it. This has been going on since the time of Buddha. This has been going on since the time of Kabir. And it's the same situation. And this is history, by the way. And it'll repeat itself again and again and again. And even though there's a lot of people who are saying, these things are really not very good. And we really need to tone down the technology in a way where human beings can function as a human being, because human beings are being changed in that way. But that's history too. We've been changed, we've been changed, we've been changed. There was a time when the first car started to be on the streets, and people said, that will never work. It'll never happen because the horses are so much better. Well, it changed. It changed. It changed. Now we can't even imagine. Even though the idea was we would get to places quicker. It doesn't quite pan out in cities. And the traffic jam is worse. You can watch people on their foot walking much faster than you and arriving at their destination before you do. So we never ever look at these things and say, is this actually working for me or not working for me? We don't do that. And we need to be reminded, hey, what does your report card say for today? You come home, say it's 7 o'clock in the evening. Do you have a report card? What happened today? We don't. And yet we want a fulfilled life. Well, unless you're taking some cognizance of what really happened today. It's like a car without a speedometer. Well, you will never know how fast you're going. a car without no temperature gauge. You don't know how hot it's running. What is your gauge at 7 o'clock in the evening that says you did well? Or no, you didn't do so well.
Is that something you'd encourage people to kind of do? Actually, maybe not write a report card at the end of every day, but perhaps sit down and take a couple of moments to say, oh, okay, what have I done well, which I know normally works?
Exactly. Did I spend time with my family? Did I listen to them? What happened to our listening power? Do we listen to each other? No. You have something to say. That's it. So far, you get to say it. You don't have to listen. And the other person's problem if they don't listen, And that can't be. What did I do? What did I do for me? What did I do for this humanity? What did I do for my family? What did I do that I would love to do again tomorrow? What did I do today that I can wholeheartedly look forward to doing tomorrow? And the day after that. And the day after that. So, where's the gauge? We don't have a gauge. Okay, at the end of the day, oh my God, I'm bushed, I'm tired, I just need to go to sleep. And, hopefully we've got our alarm clock set, pull the, cover over our head, and off I go. But life can't be like that.
You talk about the reminders, and it's occurred to me reading your book, actually, it's like a series of little vignettes, little stories and kind of tasters of your life and thoughts. And they are like little reminders. You could kind of pick it up when you want a little bit of inspiration. And some of the chapters are very short. What is perhaps one of your favourite parts of the book? I mentioned the parrot story, which I liked, and I really liked the chapter about coconuts.
Yeah.
I really like coconut. I eat coconut everything, so I liked that.
Okay.
But what is something that kind of stands out to you in the book that kind of resonates with people and resonates with you?
Whatever you practice most, you get good at it. And if that's the way things are, because that's how it happens, whatever we practice the most, we get good at it. And so look around your life. How long does it take you to get upset? So is that what you're practicing? Getting upset? And how long does it take you to just relax? Well, it's like breathe deeply, sit down. But getting anger? Getting mad? You don't need to sit down to get mad. You don't need to breathe deeply to get mad. You can get mad just like that. So we're practicing that. You got to break the bad habits. If you don't break the bad habits in your life, those will perpetuate and they will shape your life and your future.
Yeah, I feel very zen in your company. But do you have any bad habits?
Oh, everybody has bad habits. Everybody has bad habits, and that's why we need to live our lives consciously. I didn't call home yesterday. I was busy, I was coming here. I have an excuse. And so sometimes we get really good at making excuses, and we practice that more than doing what we should have done. This is what's important. And I've been working on another book. And so reading that book started to change me. For the good. It's like, wait a minute. You got to take charge of your life. This is your life. Why have you relegated who you are and what you have to do to everybody else? Your life is dependent on all these people, but not on you. So where's your strength? Where is this pillar just shaking with everything, or is it standing firm? Because if it doesn't, whatever is dependent on this pillar is also going to fall down when this pillar falls down. And we know that. But in my life, I need to be reminded, and I need to perpetuate good things. If I was to come on stage, and I make this point very clear. If I say, I've already done all of this, at that point you're talking to a gorilla. But because I have to understand that I too have to make the same effort that I'm asking other people to make, it makes me relevant. There are people who come in and say, yes, I have attained the supreme state of being. Well, very hard to talk to.
They're the
very
ones
hard.
not to...
Yeah, well, they haven't, but they're very hard to talk to.
Yeah.
Because there's a curtain drawn. It's done. It's over. You are not like me and I'm not like you, and so don't talk to me. Yeah. No, for me, it's the other way. I'm just like you, and you're just like me. And so what I say can be relevant to you, and what you say can be relevant.
Yeah, there's a great charm in listening to people and following people who kind of admit their frailties. I think Brits are often quite good at doing that. We're good at putting ourselves down, but in a very self-deprecating way. So this podcast is about energy and vitality, and there's a couple of questions that I ask people every time. One is, what is one recommendation that you would have for people to live their lives with more energy and more vitality?
Energy and vitality. So far, you're doing what you were made to do. Your body will take care of you. We forget. The first doctor is our body. The first lab is our body. It's constantly performing chemical tests saying, this is correct, 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 this is not right. So even before you see another doctor, you've got a doctor built in. And if this doctor is not working right, you've got a big problem, because the other doctors have to work with this doctor. This is the doctor that's going to do all the healing for you. So if things are correct, you know where you are on that map, you know where you want to go on that map, there's a routing that's clear, vitality will be there. Enthusiasm will be there. You don't need the alarm clock, you'll wake up. Because you're just so excited about the day. You know, remember when you were young, it was your birthday or it was Christmas or something special, and you just couldn't fall asleep, much less anything else. And you woke up, bam, and there it was. Well, start collecting things that make sense to you. Start collecting things that you're enthusiastic about. Start collecting things that you like in your life. And vitality will follow.
And there's a short chapter in the book about the doctor, isn't there? The internal doctor, which I really like as well. And then what is one book that you would recommend that has had a big impact on you? Can be anything. It can be fiction or non-fiction, something you read many years ago or something you read yesterday.
Well, one that has had made an incredible difference in my understanding of things is Mahabharata. And there's wonderful books that have been written, subsequently translated in English and done a really good job of it. And it's a wonderful message. I mean, it's a huge story. It's bigger than the Iliad and the Odyssey put together. But at the same time, it's a story about a war and trying to make sense of this war. Should this war happen? Shouldn't this war happen? So you can take it, all the bad things that happen in our life, and the war we get caught up in when things don't go right according to our plan. We're fighting wars all the time. This was a big war that was fought. And there are justifications for everything, but not for the war itself. And there are people who will justify that too. So intellect has been taken and made to justify what probably should never have been justified. It's only then that we can take a turn away from those things. And that's a really interesting book for me. And the one I'm writing, I really like it. The one that's, actually it's finished, so that's really good.
Although your Penguin Press people here will want you to talk about the book that's already come out. Well, it's really been great to meet you. I don't think I've done an interview before with these wonderful kind of potted plants next to us. I feel very...
All wellness. It's about wellness.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That's nice, isn't
See,
it?
you look at that.
Yeah.
It's doing
Bit
well.
of green.
Yeah.
Bit of greenery.
Yeah.
Do you think another appearance at Glastonbury's on the cards in the future?
If there is, I'd love to go.
Thank you to Prem. I'm still strolling around Savoy Gardens in central London. That's a nice little spot, actually, just to enjoy a cool summer's day. If you're one of those thousands of people heading to Manchester to see Prem Rawat speak live, I hope you enjoy it. Slightly different to the kind of the normal guests on Zestology, and a little bit not quite so specific in terms of wear an Oura ring and your sleep will improve by 3.5%. But his message is, well, I really enjoyed speaking to him, and there were some good little nuggets which I hope you get out of it as well. And Prem Rawat is no doubt doing lots more inspiring activities across all the different continents that he works over the next few days, months and years as well. So thanks to Prem. Thank you for listening to Zestology. Have a zesty week. Head to TonyWrighton.com if you'd like to see a few of the videos and pictures from today's interview, and more importantly, the very interested kind of potted plants behind us where we did the interview. They didn't feel real, but I think they were. So it's very hard to actually put my finger on exactly what they were, but they were kind of very colourful plant-like things on the table where we were doing this interview. I've probably given them a little bit too much prominence in this interview, to be honest. I should probably leave it there. Okay, thanks for listening. Have a zesty week, and I'll see you next time.